is nothing wrong with your television set. Do not attempt to adjust the picture. We are controlling transmission. If we wish to make it louder, we will bring up the volume. If we wish to make it softer, we will tune it to a whisper. We will control the horizontal. We will control the vertical. We can roll the image, make it flutter. We can change the focus to a soft blur, or sharply to crystal clarity. For the next hour, sit quietly and we will control all that you see and hear. We repeat, there is nothing wrong with your television set. You are about to participate in a great adventure. You are about to experience the awe and mystery which reaches from the inner mind to...
Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Jarvis Corner. Today, I have Stu Wooley with me on the panel. Big up, Stu. How are you doing?
Yeah, good. How's you? I hear it's cold in Norway today.
Yeah. It's freezing. It's minus 13 degrees outside, so you wouldn't want to be up here in northern Norway at this time of the year. It's not Britain.
No, definitely. It's well, I'll tell you what though, it felt like minus 13 out on the pitch on Saturday afternoon when the mighty Tipton Town were defeated. Terrible game. Oh, we were terrible. We were just woeful.
Wow.
Yeah, for 90 minutes we couldn't put a pass together, and which is I talk about it all the time. You can't pass 2 yards and all this kind of nonsense. And
yeah.
I couldn't pass 2 yards either, but we did play a bunch of ex-pros, so it was quite good. It was a footballing lesson, so but enjoyed it nonetheless. So yeah, we shall see. We got another bunch of ex-pros again in a couple of weeks, so we'll hopefully be better prepared this time, and then hopefully we can snatch victory from the jaws of yesterday's. Where are we? Monday, aren't we? Saturday's defeat.
Yeah. So how are you doing in the on the table? Are you on top or are you in the bottom?
No, we're mid-table. It's my first season with them, so I came out of retirement this season, and they've been playing a couple of years together, and it's a kind of mix. What I like about it is there's a mix of abilities in the team. So we there's 4 or 5 of us. I hate to say us, but who are decent, good players, good standard, and then there's a mix after that. So, but we're all 51, 52, 53. And we're still getting up and down the pitch at our age for 90 minutes. So it's all good fun.
Wow. Well,
yeah.
At least you get some exercise. In our age, I can say it's good to get some exercise now and then. And football, it's fun. It's not even hard playing football for 90 minutes.
Never is. It never is. I do a lot actually. And to be fair, so does the wife and the girls. They go out and they do their orienteering. I go to the gym most mornings to keep myself going. Play twice a week, really. So yeah, it's all good. Yeah. It's all good. I like to stay fresh, youngish looking. Might need to get rid of the beard.
Yeah. You're looking like a spring chicken. There you are.
Yeah, I wish. It's a bit grey, but no, we're all right. We're good apart from that, old friend. We're good.
Yeah. That's good. I see. Well, first of all, I want to say hi to the VAR-ROOM, and yes. I will post a link to Mick's Twitter. And if you can, please help us out. Go to his Twitter account and like and share, so everybody knows that we are going live. It will help out the channel, and of course, start the show by hitting the like. And if you haven't, please subscribe, and you will get a notification next time we're going live. I want to say hi to the VAR-ROOM, or should I bring in our guest first?
Well, it depends who it is. Who are we bringing in?
Well, we all know him as the truth. The truth.
Yes,
the truth is on fire. Mr. Tom Journalist. How you doing, buddy?
Big up, guys. How we doing? Jarvis.
Big up, Tom. How are you?
Yeah, not bad. Another week.
Not
bad.
Busy.
No, absolutely.
Busy. Yeah, busy week, guys. Busy week. Signing contracts and stuff, and it's fucking crazy, but...
Oh, that's good. That's good. I saw you on Nuruddin's channel earlier today. I heard you were all talking about Andrew Tate.
What's he done? What's he done?
I don't actually know how that ended up being the topic. Somebody put a comment in there about it, and then Nuruddin, you know what Nuruddin's like. He just goes off for like 30 minutes about it.
All right.
It was a good one. It was a good one. Okay, let's just say hi to the VAR room before we dig in and get going on the show. Uncle Jimmy will join us afterwards, but he's running a little bit late. He's probably doing a stream with his channel, but if I know Uncle Jimmy, he will come on in about 10 minutes' time. So who do we got in the house? We have... Stephanie Griffith comes in and says, hi, Jarvis, Yala, and VAR rumors. Yeah, big up Stephanie Griffin. And I will count on you to be counting the likes during the show. Thank you, Stephanie. You are a star of our room. And we have Milos Mitic. He has a long comment in Serbian, but I can't read Serbian. So I can only say Dobre večer, Milos. Let's see. We have Jamie Wayne in the house. Red One is coming in, and he's saying in the comments that he's from Morocco, I believe. Oh. So yeah, that's cool. That's cool. People from all over the world. He said, "Vi alaikum assalam." Yeah. Sorry if I mispronounced it. And we have Jamie Wayne in the house. We have Yale Malmin. We have Neil Driscoll coming in. Evening, everyone. Evening, Neil. Good to see you. Good to have you on the show. And Yale Malmin, he's not having pepperoni pizza today. He is eating lasagna. Lasagna is my favorite food. Yeah. What's your favorite food, Stu?
Oh, favorite food? It's got to be a steak.
Steak.
Yeah, I love a good steak. I'm not a ribeye fan. I take that with steak and eggs, ribeye. But if I'm steak, it's probably fillet. I'm afraid, everybody. It's a lovely cut. It's a lovely cut. If you go to, we've got where we live in Shropshire. We've got some wonderful local butchers and artisan butchers, and you can get a lovely piece of fillet, really, which is quite nice. I don't mind sirloin as well, bit more fatty, but fillet is. If you get a nice one, it's terrific. So fillet steak, got to be
a little bit of salt and
bit of salt and pepper. Cut it in half because obviously it comes as a block fillet, so you just slightly cut it.
Yeah.
Put some salt and pepper inside there as well. Give it a bit of a flash fry to start with so it doesn't come out blue. And stick your thermometer in it just to get it a lovely medium rare. And now the good thing about fillet is you can serve it with mashed potatoes if you so wish, or chips. I quite like fillet with mashed potatoes, mushy peas, and a tiny little a bit of gravy on the side.
Ooh.
Oh, lovely.
Sounds good. So, Tom, what do you like to eat? What's your favorite food?
Listen, I'm in the same boat as Stu and me, but I'm not a fillet kind of guy personally. Fillet steak. I'm sirloin, ribeye. Those cuts of meat, brilliant. You have it with a bit of peppercorn sauce. Either if you're up north in the UK, steakhouse chips, or you're down south, you have pie, mash, liquor, or beautiful food. Yeah, we are. But it depends, like I say, whereabouts you're from, because in the UK there's different traditions. Up north, it's almost as if you have pie, mash, and gravy, whereas down south it's a little bit different. You have pie mash and maybe liquor, or you have curry with it. It depends really whereabouts you're from in the UK. Everybody's different, but that's what I like about the UK more so. Anyway, you try a bit of everything. Because of the cultural, differences, but it's beautiful food in the UK. There's a lovely steakhouse. If anybody gets to go try it, I'll recommend somewhere in central London. It's not too far from London Bridge. It's called Jamajo Steakhouse. Perfect, honestly. Brilliant cuts of meat. And to be fair to people, the affordable prices, even if you're paying London rates, if you're on a night out there, honestly, perfect place to go to.
Wow.
What about you, Jarvis? I'll point the question to you. Go on.
Oh, yeah. For me, I like Italian food, pizza, spaghettis. But I actually like to make the tomato sauce myself. It takes a little bit more time, but it tastes much better than the one you buy in a jar. Actually, and I never make it with big tomatoes. Always with the sweet cherry tomatoes. Then you get the best tomato sauce.
You need a dash of Worcester sauce in there, Jarvis. That will finish
Worcester sauce. Yeah,
it's a dash.
Good.
Not too much. A little dash. Nice little salt and pepper. A little dash. A little bay leaf in there. Take the bay leaf out. Yeah, wonderful.
Fantastic. Well, I just want to go back to the VAR room. We have Sanjay in the house. Good evening from Amsterdam. Cold and damp like always. Yeah, I love Amsterdam. That's a great city. Let's see, who else do we have in the VAR room? We have Edward Reed in the house. He say Jimmy gets club and not Qatar. Yeah. That's the rumors at the moment. We heard today the Muppeteers came out and almost said that it's all done. The 25%. Did you read that, Tom?
Regarding what, sorry, Jarvis?
The takeover. The Muppeteers. Phil De Bruyne came out and said the 25% is the deal is done today.
It's not done today, but the paperwork's close to being signed on Ineos' side. The Glazer family have already signed all paperwork and contracts over. They just need to inform New York Stock Exchange traders on the day of the announcement when they make it. But Ineos have yet to fully sign every documentation, but they've signed the most important ones. It's just thinning out the final details of all the agreement. That's it. But that can take hours, not days. So, yeah, it will happen when it happens. We have talked a lot about the takeover the last couple of weeks, and I think we all are done with the takeover at the moment. We can speculate until we are blue in the face, but as long as we don't have any facts, more details about the takeover, I don't think we will come nowhere with this discussion. We know he comes in 25%. Who will come in? Ratcliffe, what's his name again? Brailsford. So Dave Brailsford, and
Brailsford, and this Jean-Claude Blanc. And it looks like a competent team of people he's bringing in, and maybe he will make us come good. But we don't know at the moment, so let's just wait and see. I see We Deserve Better comes in with a comment. Your age, you guys are only in your 50s for FFS. So how old are you?
I was going to say, how old are you then? Very nice.
Yeah. I have no one in the production room, so I have to bring out the comments myself today. So you got to bear with me. I'll do my best. I see Angie's in the house. Big up, Angie. Hi. She says hi to Neil Driscoll, and she probably says hi to us too. And Edward Reed comes in and say, steak good.
Can't beat a hot
but
curry.
You just can't beat a good hot curry. Yeah. What's the hottest curry you can have at the market? Vindaloo? Isn't that?
I don't know, because I'm not a curry fan, so I avoid curries like the plague. So I don't really know. So I'll probably have to hand that over to Tom on that.
What my personal thing, I like jalfrezi. If you have jalfrezi or Rogan Josh are really nice, but it depends on if you can take the spice or not. But if you can take it. I mean, there's a couple of things. If this is more of an English tradition anyway. You go to an Indian restaurant, nice bit of food or whatever. They might have They normally have a sort of challenge on. They give you 30 minutes to eat the hottest curry. No ice cream, no water, no nothing. 30 minutes straight through it. And put it this way: you go in there with a white t-shirt on, you're coming out draining with buckets of sweat. Put it that way. That's the British humour for you. But
that's why you need a good kingfisher.
Yeah. Fair play.
Yeah. Speaking about curry, we have Sakin Hassan. Good evening from Bangladesh. I think they like curry in Bangladesh, if I'm not wrong. We have who else do we have? We have Tontini 5555. He said, "What is this place? Won't cook, can't cook." Maybe that's a hint. Maybe we should go into the show.
I think yes. I think that's what he's saying. Yeah.
So we close the VAR-ROOM for a couple of minutes. First of all, I'm glad you are here, Tom, because I want to talk a little bit about Man City and the 115 charges. It's been up now in the last week because of Everton's 10-point deduction, and everybody talks about what about City? What about City? What kind of penalty should City have? And I know you have a lot of knowledge about this, Tom. So maybe you will inform us a little bit about what kind of breachment did Everton do, and what are City what is called
the allegations against City.
Alligated of
yeah. Well, with Everton, Everton's a little bit more complex. They've got three breaches charges of FFP against them, two of which they declared and effectively they reported themselves on, but one of which they failed to delegate in an agreement, but it was in principle because they was in negotiations over a takeover agreement. So the new owners had to declare it in time, for which they didn't do so because they didn't agree a deal in time. Everton's charges are two separate spheres. One, because they failed to regulate the amount of finances that they were paying their players and coaches since the last two seasons when they stayed up in the Premier League. What you do at the end of every season is you calibrate and you calculate the amount of wage structure that you've paid to players, to the coaching staff, and also to the manager on a total for the whole calendar year, and you have to report it in your financial findings to the Premier League. Everton, on the previous two seasons, failed to do so accurately, but they accepted, and on those two charges, they reported those to the Premier League and said, we've made some minor discrepancies within our finances. Effectively, they didn't accurately show the figures properly, not intentionally, but they've reported it themselves and said, look, we hold our hands up, we've made a mistake with our irregularities. Here's the actual findings in comparison to what we gave you previously. And in that case, they took a linear approach on those two charges. The more severe charge was the investment that Everton Football Club had put into their stadium. They had failed to declare an additional £50 million worth of funding to go to their new project stadium. And with the findings over the financial figures with Everton, because they failed to declare the 50 million, if you make an investment into infrastructure within the football club, it frees up FFP regulations based upon that you're making investments internally in your football club. So it frees up more investment for you to spend on players, on your youth academy, on your women's team. It gives you the final figure in tune if you want to go and get that extra player per se, who might be the difference maker in you staying up in the Premier League or not. That's what the extra 50 million in internal investment for the stadium does for you. It gives you more wiggle room to move around with your playing squad. And Everton, in that case, failed to declare the £50 million instalment payment because they didn't accurately state the amount of money that they was using as an extra cost. They failed to declare the amount. That's the reason why that charge is a lot more severe. And the 10-point penalty deduction, because that makes, as I said before, Everton have more wiggle room in the market. The previous two seasons when clubs have been relegated and Everton have barely scraped over the line, that's the discrepancy, because that player that they might have brought in a January window could be the difference maker between why they stayed up and why other teams went down. So in the same case with Everton now, where the charges have been proved guilty, they're taking it to an independent advisory panel to be reviewed as an appeal. But as I was saying before to you, Jarvis, like when I did the statistics research on it, there's about a 4% chance that you can get it overturned, because the Premier League's adjudication system, when they make a decision, the decision normally stands. Even if you go to an independent football commissions group, it still stands as the same decision. UEFA is a little bit different because of the laws and the context of it. But when the Premier League set a rule, that's it. There's no going back on it. So it's very unlikely that Everton will get the figure thrown out. They might get it reduced maybe by to a couple, maybe 6 or 8 points. But 10 points will still probably be the regulatory standard. So I wouldn't be surprised if nothing changed in Everton's case on that front. So effectively, Everton held their hands up on 2 of the charges, and one of them was sheer incompetence on their part and half of things. But the irregularities in Everton's case now, it's been stonewalled out. But the bigger issue for them is that the 3 relegated clubs from last season, Leeds, Southampton, and also Leicester, can now sue Everton Football Club because they're liable based upon loss of earnings from last season's, because they failed to maintain their Premier League status. And Everton, by breaking the rules and regulations, was eligible to stay up in the Premier League, for which there's a penalty figure of at least £305 million that they might have to fork out in compensation to all of those 3 clubs, for which financially will cripple Everton. When you factor in they're building a new stadium, they've also still got to maintain the current squad now, and also they've got another fight to still stay in the Premier League because they've been deducted 10 points. So the back's against the wall really for Everton future-wise. And if we go to say per se with Manchester City, people always associate with the City thing. Why is it taking so long? And I'll give the easiest answers to say it. 3 charges with Everton on a regular basis can take 2 to 3 months to properly investigate, analyse and give a verdict and decision on. 2 to 3 months, that's 3 charges. Manchester City have 115 charges dating as far back as 2011 up to the 2020 season. So in that year span is where the Premier League have to investigate. It's a lot bigger of an investigating band, and City's 115 charges range from minute ones, such as fail to declare acquisition of player agents. So, for example, you pay an agent's fee to sign a player on behalf of their agency. You have to cut them in the deal. They failed to declare the amount of that player per se. And you take that on a lower scale in comparison to the most severe charge that I know of anyway out of the 115, which is failure to declare the financial figures of a sponsorship deal, which the Etihad Airways deal was supposed to give Manchester City £16 million per annual year revenue as a sponsorship deal. But the figures don't add up because Etihad Airways didn't pay Manchester City a sponsorship agreements deal. So where's this £16 million come from into Manchester City? And on that scale, it might not seem like a lot, but when you use that to balance your financial figures within a football club, and in that era and in the figures of that allegation, which dates as far from 2011 to 2015, 4 years of £16 million, that's roughly takes you near enough to 80 million over a big time scale. £80 million in 5 years is a lot of money to a football club. Hell of a lot of money, even to Manchester City. So because that charge is as severe, it needs internal investigation. In the same way, another one of the severe charges is that when Roberto Mancini was Manchester City manager, he was being paid by an Abu Dhabi sports premier club, not Manchester City. But he was the manager of Manchester City and he was on the touchline at the Etihad Stadium in Manchester. So these are the questions that are being put to Manchester City. And if they can't prove otherwise to an independent football panel, then Manchester City will be found guilty on majority of the charges. And if I'm being honest, regarding the timescale, as I said before, Everton's 3 charges, 2 to 3 months. This City one, years. the earliest period I would say that you might get a verdict on Manchester City's charges is maybe in 2 years' time, because you've already had basically a year's worth already now. In terms of the actual severity of it, Jarvis, and where the allegations could lead to should they be proven guilty, if it goes as, like I was saying before, the more severe charges, if they get proven on any one of those, it's expulsion from the league. That is one of the avenues that the Premier League will look at, because the example that every single Premier League football club, all 19 other Premier League clubs will say at a Premier League board and directors meeting is, well, the Scottish FA did it to Rangers. They relegated them 4 divisions. So if the Scottish FA can do that to Rangers, why is you as the British FA and the Premier League, why can't you do that to Manchester City? Because they've breached financial irregularities. They've won 5 out of the last 6 Premier League titles in XYZ amount of years. They broke the league financially to win, but they've won. And how is there any fairity in football when you have people who can commit fraud on a yearly basis, annually, and they've got away with it for so long, to the point now where they claim that they make the most amount of money in European football, but they don't ever fill out the stadium. There's, like I say, the Manchester City allegations, the reason why it is taking so long to summarise is because Manchester City's allegations range from severe to very minute, but there's that many of them, it's going to take a lot more time than this Everton charge will do. And if it comes down to it with Manchester City and the investigation takes that long, if they get proven a lot of these charges, they will come down heavy on them, 100%, because they will set an example for every single other football club. If you fuck about with the league and you mess about with the regulations of our league, you're going to be severely punished. So at the end of the day, the regularity is in place to protect football clubs. And the most prime example, just to summarise, that many other football clubs will use is, while Manchester City have been fraudulently breaking the football regulations of finance, you've had football clubs like Bury go out of business. They're no longer a football club anymore, but they've been a football club in existence for over 60 years, and they've gone out of business. In the same time, Manchester City have been breaking the financial figures of football. That's what people will use against Manchester City. But again, the punishment charges can range from expulsion from the league as far down as huge multi-million-pound fines. And I'm not talking about 10 million. I'm talking about hundreds of millions of pounds of fines, which to Manchester City might not seem a lot, but internally they can strip the whole finances of Manchester City. So if they do get proven guilty, Manchester City will be watched on every single deal, every single player, manager, anything that they do. You will have a Premier League representative interior in Manchester City overviewing all of it. So effectively, the timescale for City's charges is going to take a lot longer, but the longer it takes, guys, even if they don't get proven to be guilty on all of the charges, it looks far worse. It looks a lot worse than these Everton charges right now.
Yeah, and it's important to point out that there's no time bar when it comes to the FA or
not
the Premier League.
No, that's it, correct.
So they can take all the time in the world in a way just to be thorough and find all the evidence they need.
It could take 10 years. It could take 10 years. 20 years. It could be. What I find massively interesting about it is, of course, Everton fans are up in arms, and every other football fan around the world now is looking at Manchester City in the Premier League. The problem the Premier League have got from an optics point of view, just purely from an optics point of view, is if you look at 115 charges, 10% is, well, just round it up to 12 rather than 11.5. We'll round up to 12 charges. 12 charges to 10%, 20%, 24, 50%, 57.5 charges, 56 charges. If you round it up on 50% of their charges. As Tom's rightly said, it's a raft of very, very small minor charges to some absolutely huge charges. So we all know, Yeah, we all know as a betting man, and I'm not a betting man, but you don't need to be a numbers guy to work it out. The chances of City getting away scot-free on this are zip. And this is where the optics for the Premier League are terrible. And they've backed themselves into a huge corner now with what they did with Everton. I like what they've done with Everton, and I think any football fan would like what they've done with Everton. Can we allow 3 clubs to sue Everton for £300 million? I don't know. I think that's a different a conversation for a different day.
Yeah.
But if the Premier League, you have to bear something in mind about the Premier League. Once they went ahead and said, yes, let's tick that box, we are now going to charge Manchester City with this. The due diligence and the sheer time and paperwork and proof that they've had to gather to even go anywhere near court with Manchester City, they have got to be cast iron and rock solid. Because we know what happened with the Court of Arbitration for Sport with UEFA. And we don't know how much backhanded money and brown paper envelopes, well done, Ange, was given out to various people. But when you are the Premier League, they've got so much riding on this, the Premier League, because I was listening to a couple of people the other day saying, look, the Premier League won't do anything for City, City will get away with it. They can't. City can't get away with it, irrespective of what it does to the Premier League, irrespective whether it destroys the Premier League or not. City aren't that powerful in terms of what the branding does for City. Tom's actually right, by the way. How on earth are they worth 715? Have they turned over 715 million quid? It's absolutely impossible. It's taken Manchester United. Where are we now? And we were turning over good numbers, under Martin Edwards. So it's probably taken United 20 years to reach 650 million.
2 decades. 2 decades. And City have done it within a decade.
Yeah, it's just not. No, it can't. And you can't overtake Real Madrid. You can't overtake Barcelona. It just can't be done. So we all know they're cooking the books, and everybody knows that there's an issue within Manchester City. And Tom's on the button. The severity.
Always.
Yeah, he is. Yeah. The severity of what could happen to City is astronomical. Astronomical. If the Premier League fine them, the whole footballing world's going to go, what's the point? Waste of time. Waste of time. Even if it's 500 million quid, waste of time. It's an irrelevance to City.
Yeah.
They've got to be punished sportingly, whether that's relegated, whether it's complete expulsion for 5 years to the Premier League, whether it's I mean, the Premier League can't expel them from Europe, can they, Tom? That's the UEFA.
No, that's
UEFA
jurisdiction.
Yeah. So, those are the main areas. Could the FA then go ahead after the Premier League expel them, and the FA expel them from the football pyramid? Who knows? And then you've got the players themselves. What happens to? Can you strip them of the titles? Can you strip the players from the medals? Can you kill virtually every player's CV? Is that the players' fault? It's just there's a myriad of issues that the Premier League have got to solve. But they're the one that fight the gun. They're the one that loaded the gun. Well, City gave them the ammunition, but they put it in the gun and they fired it. And when you take City on, when you fire that pistol and say, right, here's 115 charges, you have got to be damn well sure that 90% of those will stick, because you would not take it anywhere near a court. You would not take it anywhere near taking on Manchester City or anyone else. So I think it's going to be fascinating. With Tom, though, don't expect to see anything for 2 years at all.
Okay.
City, by the way, City's lawyers, by the way, are tying the process up. They're withholding and taking time with withholding information, which apparently is part of some of the charges, isn't it, Tom? The lack of time,
lack of disclosure,
transparency and exposure, and all of this, and City themselves know they're in a world of pain. And the boardroom at City, when they saw what was happening at Everton, would have been like, oh, this is going to, we've got massive, massive issues. And the flip side of it is right at the very, very, very end of all of this. And if nothing happens, what do the clubs do? Mm-hmm. What do Everton do? Do Everton counter scene? As Tom says, they made an error, a clerical error, one for the better phrase. They've been, Chelsea are the same, by the way. Chelsea in a massive, massive problem. You know when they made a clerical error? I talked about, FFP. This is where we are. Here's our fine. We had a very, very small FFP fine. I'd like to think we are above reproach, Manchester United, but do we really trust our owners? No. Is that one of the reasons why the owners don't want to sell? Somebody put it brilliantly in the VAR. They've asked that question. I haven't asked that question before. I've never heard it asked before. It was a great question by somebody in the VAR room. If that Jassim came in, what would happen to Manchester United with this roots and branch due diligence that you must do to buy a club? With Sajid putting his 25% in, the Glazers aren't selling the club, so there's no investigation will be needed. It's a massively interesting question. Never has it been spoken about by anyone. No. And it's a great question. So the legal ramifications on this alone for City are huge. Literally huge. And they might be better off coming out, and as Jarvis said, as Tom said, similar to Everton, start owning up to a few of these charges and taking some kind of deal that's on the table. Because if they hang it out and they don't win, then the Premier League have got massive, massive problems. I don't think City's a big enough name, the Premier League, to worry about expelling them.
No, I don't
know. Just imagine if it was Manchester United or Liverpool.
I'd put Arsenal even in that conversation. Any of the historical three.
Yeah.
The historical three, yeah.
Tom, hold that thought, and I will just give you a question you can think of, and I will go back to the VAR room. And the question is, can the other clubs sue City if they are found guilty of 115 breaches? Because it's a lot of ramifications if you go back 10 years, how it all played itself out. And I just want to bring out Angie. She had a membership gift here, 10 members. Thank you very much, Angie. You're a legend.
Sorry, Angie, I'll give you the blue glasses.
We have Abdullah Irvan, we have Steve Brown, Marvin, Kevin Murphy, Riot, Batmouse, Tony Bond, 007. We have Lee Moss, Ryan Singh, Sumak Roy, and that's all. So you have to excuse me if I pronounced your name wrong, but welcome to the club, guys and girls.
Welcome all. I'll go very quickly. I'll go very quickly, Jarvis. I don't believe, and by the way, I'm no lawyer at all. I don't believe that any good would come out of Burnley, Leicester. Is it Southampton, Tom?
So Southampton, Leeds, and Leicester.
Oh, Southampton, Leeds, Southampton, Leeds, and Leicester.
These are from last season, yeah.
Yeah, I don't see any good of it. There is, I'm sure, a legal basis to do it, and I don't see any point in doing it. With City, it's hugely different because you're talking about titles. You're talking about five, maybe six. Yes, 5 titles. It'll be, won't it? You're talking about titles, and that's a bit different because winning a Premier League title. Yes, winning a Premier League title is, I mean, we've come second twice. 3 times in that. There's the Aguero moment, Solskjaer and Mourinho. Okay, so we come second 3 times. Liverpool have come second, is it once, twice? Twice,
yeah, but they'd won one of the 3.
But they'd won one of the 3, yeah.
Then they'd win all 3, effectively.
That's right. So for those clubs, Absolutely. But then where does that leave the players?
Mm.
You know, the players go through the door to work, don't they? They work for. It's like people that work for me, people that work for you, Tom, people, your staff, Jarvis. They work for you. They can't control how unscrupulous you are as a person, or me, or Tom. That's up to us as leaders and as directors and as managers. But I can't see any other way around it. I'm sorry to say, I can't see any other way around it. You can't. There's no point fining people. And if you do fine City, and City agree to pay $400 million or whatever it is, and then Manchester United, Liverpool, and whoever else decide to fine it, the whole Premier League could go at City. Okay,
yeah.
Then you know, and they probably would win. But where does that leave? I mean, then football dies. As soon as you start suing other clubs, football completely dies. It's dead anyway, isn't it? We all admit that. Football's dead. Football's in the gutter. We all admit that, all of us. And we're huge fans. But if you were to start suing, and then what happens then? Players counter sue, or whatever could happen. The minefield. Yeah. I mean, that's just my take on it. I mean, Tom, what's yours? I mean, I just think you're going down a rabbit hole of no return, in my humble opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, with the 3 relegated clubs in Everton's case, they do have a legal case to answer to for, because they lose £60 million by not retaining their Premier League status. So they can do Everton Football Club on the basis of loss of earnings. And anybody can do that within business or law. You make a financial transaction and then a competitor copies your idea, you can sue them based upon copyright claims, or you can sue people in the case of if it's made you lose money intentionally or non-intentionally. If you lose money in business, 9 times out of 10, if it's due to a competitor, you can sue them. And then it's a case of if you win or not. In the Everton case, they probably would win, all of the clubs. But because of the irregularities of it, and it's 3 individual cases, each club has to take Everton to court separately. They can't do it collectively as a group. And even in saying that, £300 million is a lot of money to try and fork out from Everton Football Club. So that will take years to do as well. And in the same way, like Stu was saying with Manchester City, if it comes down to it, I think the bigger picture really on City's case, if they got expelled from the league, or they was relegated all the way down the football pyramid, I think the bigger picture really is that Manchester City's history would be tainted as it is anyway, because they've been found guilty of every single charge from the minute when that Aguero goal went in, when they won the first league title in God knows how long, all the way up until 2020 with the COVID year. And in the COVID year, they had to cease the actual irregularities that they were producing in their football club, because they had to open the books to the Premier League to show, are you going out of business because of COVID? Are you breaking, are you going to have to breach the rules just so that you can keep afloat as a football club? Like, they had to open the doors then. And it was only due to a Portuguese hacker many years ago called Rui Pinto at the time. He was a teenager at the time. I think he's turned 21 now over the years. He hacked 3 main European football clubs: Manchester City, Real Madrid, and Juventus. Juventus wasn't as severe because they was going broke at that time anyway, and they had allegations against them with the Italian Football Association. Well, Real Madrid, he basically leaked every single player in the scouting network that Real Madrid was looking at. And with Manchester City, he breached and he opened up all of the finances for which Manchester City now, we know about the illicit deal with the Etihad deal, and that they don't make, the numbers don't add up in the deal over time. So because of this one teenage hacker at one point in stage is one of the main reasons why you are where you are today with Manchester City, because it opened the whole door at it. Yeah, there's privacy and security networks within football clubs, but they have to still broadcast and showcase to the Premier League, this is how much money we make, this is how we can prove it. And like, Stu was saying before, it's took Manchester United, 20 years to get to the revenues that they have got to. And the Manchester United are the biggest in the Premier League, where they haven't broken any of the rules. And if you go into a sports brand meeting, if you're basing it off of brand, any company in the world of business would rather have Manchester United as a sponsor or a brand deal with Manchester United than Manchester City, just because of the attraction factor of the fans. Manchester City worldwide, I think there was a statistic a couple of days ago. I think they have about 30 million fans worldwide. United have well over 1 billion. So if you go to a business transactional deal, there's your two sponsors. Manchester United, you don't even think about City. It's not even an option. If you're a business guru or a tycoon, you go for Manchester United if you can get a deal with them. So with the City one, it ultimately comes down to, like you posed the question, Jarvis, would the other clubs sue? If I'm being completely honest, from a financial aspect, the Premier League will probably fine them as part of the deal. And I think it depends on how much they fine them. If they fine them, hundreds of millions, let's just say, for example, they fined them £800 million in total for the whole charges, that might be distributed out to every single club. So you do 800 million divided by 19, but you do it based upon each of the clubs in all of those seasons. And you hand the money out irrespectively every single season. So you've got to cut all the clubs in. But again, we don't know the final figures of what the proposal is. If I'm being honest, this is just me speaking as a fan, not really as much knowledge in this case. I'd let Manchester City keep the titles. I'd let the players keep the medals, because the players, on the other hand, they had to work hard to win those medals for that club. So I do respect that in many cases. They didn't cheat. It's the people above them that's cheated and behind the scenes. But the people upstairs, the Aguero goal won't hit the same. It really won't. That torture that Manchester United fans had for many years doesn't have the same ring to it anymore. Because that was the day.
Bragging rights are gone. It's totally gone.
As soon as that goal went in, guys, that's the day that Manchester City started cheating football figures and finance. That's what it will be remembered as, not the Aguero goal. That's when the tainted error goes. And even in saying this, Pep Guardiola, who's the most, I would say, the biggest and best manager in world football, his legacy at Manchester City will be tainted.
Yeah, big
the
time.
treble will be tainted, even though it's not in these financial figures. It will be tainted because of it.
It will.
And at the end of the day, it's all gone over the line and it's gone cross-border.
Which is actually, Tom, what you talk about there about the treble not being in these financial figures is all the more astonishing, isn't it? They can get to 715 million quid. It's all astonishing. It's ridiculous. There's something very, very simple to add to this as well. And that is, I'll bring Newcastle into this. Their biggest ever shirt sponsor was £5 million a season. Their current one is £25 million a season. Okay, just let that sink. Just let that sink in. Okay, and Tom's talking about the Etihad sponsorship, the stadium sponsorship, the shirt sponsorship, or whatever. Just let that sink in about Newcastle. Okay, Newcastle United, who get whatever happens, whichever league they're in, 56,000 people through the door because they're the only club there. City struggled. We all know they struggled to fill the empty hand, as it's well known. We all know you can buy a ticket for £5 on the night and the day of games, etc. Yeah, look, everybody knows all this. You don't need to be a rocket scientist to work that out. But you could always just look. I'm just talking shirt sponsorship alone. If you went back through City's history, what do you reckon the most they've ever got for shirt sponsor, Tom? 3 mil?
Well, put it this way, Stu. The Etihad deal, which is supposed to be at 16 million per season in 2011, when you compare that to Manchester City, and they had Sheikh Mansour for, I think it was around 2 years before that sponsorship deal was agreed. In comparison to what Newcastle have just signed only last year for 25 million with Saudi Arabian fuel, PIF-backed seller, like £25 million in today's era compared to 16 million back then. Like I was saying before, the numbers in that time of football doesn't add up. It really doesn't. And that's the difference. And between Manchester City and Manchester United is when United go for a sponsorship deal, they don't have to try to get a sponsor to come on board with them. They will, any sponsor in any business. Jarvis, you'd love to have your company be sponsored by Manchester United. Myself as well, with my investments and company, I'd love to have some of my sponsors there. You'd love it. Would I have it on with even Manchester City in this case? Yeah, they're a big football club in comparison to maybe our companies and businesses, but Manchester United is different because United's worldwide and global. City is, but it doesn't have that far of a reach and that much of a bling to it. And at the end of the day, like we were saying, the treble season that Manchester City have just had will be known as that they had to break the rules to win the treble. Manchester United didn't. They had to do it blood, sweat and tears. They got to the point where they were losing an FA Cup tie where they could have gone out of the competition, and it took a late goal to then move on to the next round. It then took 2 late goals in the final of the Champions League. That's history for you. That's legacy. The Aguero goal, that's the kickstart to break all the rules and breach the regulations, not to make competitive football decision and challenges. But in this case, and even in saying that, with the Everton one, the Chelsea one, and the Manchester City one, the main people that I feel sorry for the supporters. I really do, because the only people they just support the football clubs. That's it. You go to the game Saturday, father and son duo or full family outing. Take the family there, day trippers, whatever. I just feel sorry for those people because all they want to do is watch good football. They don't know what, financial irregularities are in football or the basics of it. They probably don't even know who the football CEO is. They're just a bog standard football fan. But at the end of the day, if you're going to breach the rules and breach the league, be prepared for the consequences to come back and bite you in the arse. It's only the same if you don't pay your taxes. I think the taxman's going to knock on your door one day. Look how we show.
Eventually I'll get you. Absolutely. It's bizarre. It's bizarre. I mean, we're talking about the new era. Okay, the new era of Manchester United's. Sir Jim Ratcliffe comes in. And I've been listening to people that they're really excited about certain members coming in. CEOs, etc. Now, we all know that a CEO doesn't have to be sporting minded. He's a numbers guy. That's what the CEO is there for. He's just a numbers guy. He's running the business. And this is where football fans, and this is where City have been relatively clever because they've put a numbers guy in there. The Caldoon or whatever his name is. He's a CEO. That's his role as CEO. You could have any CEO, top grade CEO in the world, run a football club. It doesn't matter. It's the people below him, the sporting director, the football advisory board, which is the key element. And this is where Tom's absolutely right. And this is where the fans they'll be horrified by what we're talking about here. But it's the CEO and his wizardry, which is causing the problem for the club, not the players. And maybe the sporting director, maybe not, but the sporting director basically goes to the financial director, and says, "Look,
and the board signing the checks.
How are you going to structure the deal? Etc., etc., etc." And that's how it is. Look, let's be clear and let's be honest. We all know to get to billionaire status on this planet, whoever you are, Zuckerberg did it. He weaseled his way into the biggest share of Facebook. The Microsoft Bill Gates has weaseled his way into the biggest share of Microsoft. We know all of this. The same with Apple, etc., etc., etc. I could go on forever about how businesses and big businesses have grown. Look, nobody on this panel is suggesting that Sir Jim is squeaky clean. You don't get to be worth 20, 30 billion by not cutting the corners. It's the same with the oligarchs. It's the same with everywhere. But where Manchester United sits way, way, way above, and this is, again, Tom's getting at this, is the fact is we don't need Qatar. We don't need anybody because Manchester United is self-sustained. City couldn't do that. City is not a self-sustained club. We could generate and supply and survive to the levels of investment that City have done or Newcastle have done or any other benefactor on our own, purely based on our financial muscles. pause.
But when you think of it, Stu, we have had like 18 years of bad results, and we have a revenue of 650 million pounds this year. So the numbers. Can you imagine if we won the Champions League or God forbid the double or treble? We could be up until $1 billion in revenue.
Oh, Jarvis, 100%. And this is why one of the reasons why the Glaze, and look, we call it Glazeonomics, etc., and we can have a pop at the Glaze as much as we like. We can, but they are up there with the elite, astute businessmen on the fucking planet. They are, whether people like it or not. It doesn't matter. You can have a right go at me. It doesn't matter. They are up there because, as Tom has talked about the finances before, they put $200 million in of their own money. That is it. Okay. And they're valuing the club. Potentially, the club could be sold at $8 billion. $8 billion. Yeah. They're up there with the most astute businessmen on the fucking planet, whether we like it or not. They are good CEOs and good marketers. That's what they do best. But they don't know how to run a football club.
I just want to take us back a little bit, Stu. Very good points you had. But when we talked about sponsorships, I read. I'm paraphrasing because I don't know this on the top of my head. But I read somewhere that Arsenal had a sponsorship deal over 15 years in 2011, and it was £85 million. And City at the same time, because you got to remember 2011 Arsenal was at their end of peak. The Arsene Wenger era, their peak when it comes to sponsorships, and City had, I think they had 140 millions over 10 years at the same year.
That's what the figures
was empty. So it puts things in perspective, and of course there was something fishy going on with Manchester City. I just want to bring us a little bit back. I have a share screen here. Today I read a tweet from Swedish Rumble. He talked about 115 allegations. And I don't know if you can... maybe I took it a little bit too far now. Oops, I will go up again. Hold on. And there we are. This is... it talks about what is Manchester City charged for. You mentioned it, Tom, but just to clarify so everybody knows, he talks about the below table that he's having this screen. He said that, okay, if we talk about 116 charges, but he's a lawyer, and he said, I would say that it's only 32 charges. Some will say it's 150, but
they multiply though. That's the difference.
And in this table, I don't know if you can see it. Maybe I can get it a little bit bigger. Hold on, my piece. Yeah, they say charge 1 is not providing correct financial information. Charge 2A, not providing full details of manager remuneration. That's and not provide full details of players. How do you pronounce this? Remuneration.
Remuneration. So it's all about money they get in. Remuneration.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And number 3 is breaching UEFA FFP, breaching Premier League's profitability and sustainability. And the number 5 is not assisted with the Premier League investigation. So these are basically the charges that the Manchester City are up for. And as you can see here, and it's go back to 2010, 2011, 2012, and 13. And it moves on, and from 2019 and up until today, they are not assisting the Premier League investigation. That's the only breach that they are charged for in the 5 last years. So this is just a sum up for people to understand what's actually going on. Is Swedish Rumble right, Tom?
Yeah. Well, like I was saying before, like for example, with some of the charges where he broke it down for everybody a little bit better there regarding, say, the not providing manager remuneration details, that comes under the category of what I was saying about Roberto Mancini, where he was being paid by an Abu Dhabi Sports Premier Football Club rather than Manchester City. That falls under that category. Like I was saying before about the agent fees not being paid or accurately shown as to how much you've paid an agent for. That comes under the player remuneration details. And even if you go as far as the profitability and sustainability charges against Manchester City, that falls under the category of the sponsorship deal that I was saying about with the Etihad deal. So the charges in severity, as Swedish Rumble broke them down for you all there into the 5 or 6 categories, that's multiplying over a number of years. So for every year that they've made these assumptions or the allegations go against Manchester City, that's where they add the additional charges over the 5 or 6 categories. So in the same face that if you move the goalposts effectively, so when from on the last chart on the bottom one, where it said from 2019 to 2023, where there was the whole X's from 2019 to 2023 regarding not assisting with the Premier League investigation inquiry. That's how long Manchester City have been being asked questions, by the Premier League for regarding the investigation. So this isn't something new for people. There you go. Anyway, on the bottom one, this isn't something new, guys. Like I was saying before, when the details broke only 18, I think it was around about 10 to 12 months ago, regarding the Manchester City allegations, and it came out by Martin Ziegler of Times Sport, when they made the allegations public, this investigation where the Premier League has been going on for years, but they're having to backlog it and go back through their records as an association in the Premier League to say, what did Manchester City actually declare as a football club and what didn't they? What's actually correct in comparison with your records, Manchester City? And when they put the questions to City from 2019 to 2023, they're just no comment. Yeah. And they're not assisting the inquiry. Yeah. But by not assisting it, you make it look a lot worse for yourself. And like Stu said before, he made a brilliant point, and I couldn't agree with him more. You don't take this charge or all of these charges forwards and say, right, we're pursuing all 115 charges. If you don't expect at least 60, maybe 70% of them, you can prove. And I'd even go as far as to say the severe charges in this case. Yeah. If you can't prove the severe charges, you wouldn't take it forward because you could just fine Manchester City on the minute charges easily. Give them £50 million fine, £100 million, whatever. Give them a fine. That's it. But they have to save face in some way, the Premier League. So if they come down on a ton of bricks like if they do with Manchester City, in the same way that they've done with Everton, even though it's on a lower scale, 10 points in comparison to Manchester City's 115 charges, you could run them out of business. You really could. You could run them out of business. And if it comes to it, like Stu was saying before, and you put the question to me, Stu Jarvis, if all the clubs sue them over those 10 years and years, you probably would do. And Abu Dhabi would have to fund or flip the bill for all of it as a nation. And then you get the politics involved, and then you'll have the different disputes around how Sheikh Mansour actually bought the club. Did he buy it legally, illicitly? Was the government involved? It'll just open a massive can of worms. And at the end of the day, if it comes to it, even if Manchester City fans are watching this isn't a slander on your football club, but I'm going to say it as it for what it is. If it comes to it where Sheikh Mansour gets questioned or asked by Richard Masters of the Premier League, chief executive, and says, we need to ask you questions as the owner, directly, not your representation, not your lawyer, not your solicitor, you. If it comes down to it and Sheikh Mansour has to sit there and he can't answer the questions, he'll sell Manchester City Football Club. He will put it on the market. And it doesn't matter they won't give a shit what price they get for the club. They will just sell it to whoever wants to buy it, they'll sell it. Maybe the Glazer family might have left by them. They might see an opportunity. You never know. Wow. There might be everybody's painting saint then, rather than the victimized villains. But
we have Stephanie Griffin reminding us. Everybody, we have 45 likes. There's over 100 people watching. So please, we are doing a lot of work. We read up before these shows, and we spend a lot of time. So please give us a like. It's our revenue. It's what you can pay us back for the work and the entertainment that we
don't
provide.
Fiddle with the numbers, guys. Like Manchester City, you guys just need to hit a button. and the numbers go up for us. That's it.
Well, you know, Tom again's put a great slant on it because he's 100% right. City get fined, I don't know, 800 million, say, then they'll sell the club because they won't accept an 800 million fine. They've got to get it back somewhere along the line. And if they are proven guilty, and then you've got criminal charges against the likes of Mansour or Kadoun, whoever it is in charge, because there could be criminal charges here as well. Then all sorts could happen. There is a very, very or the Premier League could force City the sale of Manchester City. I don't know whether that's something that can be done. But interestingly enough, all roads do lead to the potential of City being sold and then fall into the hands of an American billionaire, i.e. the Glazers, who knows, or somebody else, and that could well happen. If there is a big fine, big fine. In Formula One years and years and years ago, there's a bit of a battle. Sorry, apologies for going off football matters for a minute, but there's this huge battle about Felipe Massa in 2008 being robbed of the Formula One title by virtue of a orchestrated crash by Renault F1 GP. Okay, and on that particular one, he lost a lot of points. He lost the title by 1 point, for example. He's now pursuing litigation against the FIA and Formula One to try and get that result overturned, because he's now since found out and been told, and there's been information put in the public domain that the FAI and F1 knew about this cover-up. And they, Renault were fined huge amounts of money. There's been another one back in the day with Ron Dennis and McLaren, fined almost a couple of £100 million almost for technical secrets that were being stolen, and intellectual property, which you cannot do. Financial doping is what it's all about. It is financial doping, and this is what's happening with City. City are trying to steal a march on everyone else. I think, and I could be wrong here, but I think I read an article a few years ago when he came in to say that they want, within 10 years, they want City to be the biggest football club in the world. And the only way, you could never accelerate that by playing the game the correct way. You couldn't do that. And I think, and all this is now coming to fruition. But sport is littered with it, isn't it? You could go to most sports and it's, in MotoGP currently, it's a very, very tight battle between two Ducati bikes, a Pramac bike, which is a non-factory bike, and the factory bikes. And all of a sudden, there's about 13 points, and all of a sudden in the Qatar Grand Prix this week, the non-factory bike had a tyre issue. Okay. All of a sudden, just out of his tyre, the non-factory bike has had a tyre issue. This is what happens because Ducati couldn't be beaten or can't be beaten by a factory team, by a non-factory team. It can't happen. That's a very small snippet of information for you about a larger problem in sports washing. I'm not talking about Saudi Arabia. I'm just talking about sports washing and what needs to happen as opposed to what could happen or what should happen.
But the problem, I think the problem in sport is people and sports organization is very hard for them to regulate when it comes to finance and economics, because you have to be a finance lawyer and you have to have all insights into the papers and that's where the biggest problem lies, because at the end of the day, FA, they are football people, they want to run the competition as good as they can, but now it's all become more and more.
There's an easy
money.
way, Jarvis. There's an easy way that you can do that. Just put a cap on every single club and say that you can spend the same amount, £200 million for summer and January. So you have to budget and prioritise. Where do your priorities lie? In the summer, and you want to spend 200 million there, and then you can't buy anybody in January, or you spend maybe a considerable amount. You might spend 150, and then you keep 50 left over
But then you're back to the Super League and wage cap and
no. I'm
transfer
talking
caps
about every club. I'm talking about from 20th to 1st in the Premier League. Every club, if you have the money to do it, and if your owner's prepared to put the money in, you can spend £200 million, but everybody spends the exact same amount. There's a max. If you want to spend under it, that's fine, but it doesn't count for nothing. But there's a max for every single season. That's the only way, genuinely, that you could ever regulate the Premier League with nation states involved, because they can't. Well, there you can't flip the books. You can't unaccurately state what you spend because there's a cap on it anyway. So you can't overspend on whatever player that you want. You can't overspend on whatever deal, and then sponsorship.
But then all of the football clubs in all over the world have to do the same, or all will end up in the Saudi League.
Well,
that's the problem. You can't regulate it in Britain.
Yeah, I mean, the Saudi league's in itself interesting by the odd one or two clubs that can fill the stadium as opposed to 70% that can't, and yet they're looking at coming into the UEFA Champions League, aren't they? In was it 2025, 2026, something along those lines. Somewhere along the line, money won't be the be all and end all. At some point in life, money won't be the be all and end all. And when you look back at when Sky took over the Premier League, and everyone lauds Richard Scudamore, didn't they? For developing this beast. But where was the foresight? Where was the foresight of what could happen and what will happen? But there was no foresight. And people think, well, we're the best club in the world. We've got to do this. We've got to do that. We've got to do this. We've got to do that. You don't. You have to take a step back occasionally and say, right, this isn't wrong. This isn't right. This is wrong. Tom's talking about limiting every club, capping them at 200 million. 10 years ago, the really big clubs in world football had a chance to get together, speak, get around the table and say, right, we will pay no player, no more than 100 grand a week. No, so if you want to sign for Manchester United, Real Madrid, Barcelona, Bayern Munich, etc.,
wage cap,
we'll pay you 100. That's it. That's all you get, and then you'll get to see the mercenaries in footballers and the players that really want to play the game. Nobody can look at a footballer now and really say he loves football. He really wants to play, football for playing football. It's all about money now. So.
I see Angie has a comment for you, Stu.
Okay. It's probably because she's been long, so this football has gone downhill since American Saudi Arabia. Okay, no, absolutely, Angie. No, you could look back. I said when Chelsea was sold just recently, yes, they had to be sold. I get that, but I said Chelsea changed the landscape of football twice. When Roman Abramovich came in and started his spending spree and started bringing in Galacticos into the English game, that was one. And two, the cost of the sale of Chelsea, which is, we all know, Tom, and you know this as well as I do, pal, sparked the Glazers. There it is, props as soon as Chelsea was sold. And now everything is about adding value to the club. I tend to agree. I think English owners, the English Premier League club should have English owners, and I still think the quota should be 70% of English players as opposed to where we are today. I really do. I think Andy's got a great point. Unfortunately, it won't happen. We can't go back to those days. The FA isn't strong enough to tackle the Premier League. And again, this is another conversation for another day. But Tom works in the industry, so he knows the Premier League are all-encompassing when it comes to football. The FA are too weak to go head-to-head with the Premier League. And they should have reined them in right at the very beginning, but they elected not to.
Neil Driscoll comes in with a commentary, says, Angie, God there, we don't have enough English rich people who can buy clubs. Maybe that's a problem.
Tom will tell you that people knew what Scudamore was up to. You could tell what Scudamore was doing, what he was trying to do. You could tell, and nobody stopped him. They should have put the hammer down in season 3 of the Premier League, but they didn't. They didn't bother doing it. Sky knew what was happening.
I just want to round up this interesting discussion, and then we can move on because we are 1 hour and 15 minutes into the show, and there's a lot of stuff to cover. So one last question for you two guys, and I want a short answer. It's a two-part of the question. The first part of the question is: will City get penalized, and is the FA afraid to penalize City because they are afraid that City will break out and go and start up the Superleague again? Especially when you think about Chelsea also getting a fine or relegated, and Man United still have the Glazers, and they are pushing for the Super League. We know the Glazers want the Super League because it's more money in it. Could be potentially see the big clubs break out again, and this will be the excuse they need to go into the Super League?
I don't personally. I'll just say this quickly anyway. I don't think they will, no, because the difference back then is the Spanish clubs, Barcelona and Real Madrid, they needed the Premier League clubs. They needed them to make a Super League. And in this case now, it will be the English clubs, or two of the English clubs, need everybody else. And put it this way, if Manchester City and Chelsea have done all these breaches and all these financial irregularities, Manchester United ain't going to save you and help you out. Liverpool ain't going to save you and help you out. Arsenal certainly ain't, and Spurs ain't. So 4 of the big 6 ain't going to help you out, and they're 4 of the main clubs that you would need. The 3 clubs in Italy aren't going to help you out, in Inter, AC, or Juventus. And then if you go as far as a reach to Spain, Real Madrid don't need you anymore. They're fine financially. They've built their new stadium. They've got the financing in place to be a success again. Barcelona restructuring, reshaping up. Yeah, they're in over £1 billion worth of debt, but they're slowly picking it and paying it down year after year. It's going to take them some time, but they've got it under control. They've got a plan there. They've got a structure. Atletico are in debt, I think, over 300 million euros worth of financial debts, but they're paying it down over time, and they've got it under control. So with City and Chelsea, they don't necessarily have the fortitude to just break away and say, let's build a Super League, when nobody needs it anymore, guys. The TV rights deals are coming up soon, so you're going to make more money if you stay with the Premier League and probably with UEFA in their deals. So why would you want to leave just because Manchester City and Chelsea need you to? It's not going to happen. So at the end of the day, with City...
And United with the Glazers.
Well, yeah, and United with the Glazers, but if I'm saying it point blank there, 115 charges, they'll get found guilty of some of them. Absolutely, they'll get found guilty of some of them. But it depends if they're severe ones or not. And considering how Swedish Rumble put the actual context of all of the categories for you down, they're going to get at least found guilty on one category, minimum. And those are massively serious categories, especially within football and law and league and the logistics of it. So I think they will be punished, yeah. And if I'm being honest with Chelsea, I think Chelsea will be the exact same thing, but I don't think Chelsea will be as severe because their owners, the new owners that have come in, as soon as they took over, they contacted the Premier League and they stated there's been some financial irregularities that we want to declare and find out from the previous ownership. So they've done an Everton in this case. So with Chelsea, they'll probably take a lenient approach. Manchester City, you've dodged the investigation for 5 years, guys. We ain't going to do you any favours. So we'll go I think they'll go full throttle with Manchester City. And like Stu said before, if they've got the guts and the bollocks to take them on now and say, this is how many charges we're bringing against you, and we're going to prove it. And if they do prove it, Manchester City will cease to amaze as a football club. They won't get any brand deals. Nobody will want to work with them. No manager credibly in football will want to be that manager because of the scrutiny of it. And any of the players that even associate or stay with that club will be tainted with any sponsorship that they have with a sporting brand, Nike, Adidas, New Balance, whoever. So you're going to see a lot of selfishness at Manchester City because everybody will leave them, every single person. And it might even go as far as to say the owner might leave them, because I think he would if push come to shove.
Yeah, guaranteed. So
but yeah, go on, Stu.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. I don't really got a lot to add because Tom's absolutely right. The Super Leagues, we don't need it anymore because the newfangled Champions League means 32 teams round robin. You play each other twice, so you're playing pretty much every week. You can be playing every week. There's going to be a load of dead rubbers in there, but it's going to generate shitloads of money. So that's that done. Which means then you're going to get us other European competitions will kind of start to evolve for smaller clubs. So no way will Manchester United or Liverpool or Arsenal leave the Premier League. I also think they'd be sued by the Premier League anyway. I think there'd be litigation and things of that nature.
Yeah.
And and the other thing is, somebody asked about Luton. Well, look, Luton don't give a damn whether Man City turn up on their doorstep. They don't care if Aston Villa turn up on the doorstep. They do care if Manchester United turns up on the doorstep, and Liverpool and Arsenal. They don't care about anyone else. They really don't. And as for the charges, I agree with Tom. They're going to get hit, yeah, for sure. I think, to me, mathematically, it's impossible for any judge, jury, whatever, to get City off 115 charges. It's not an impossible. It's not impossible. They will be charged, and it'd be interesting to see what they're charged and what happens. But I think we could see the demise of City, and I think the owners could even jump ship before it all comes out. Who knows?
Yeah,
because Tom's right. This could take up to 2 years yet. 2 years. So
interesting times, 2 years, but maybe we will have a closure in this Manchester City saga. We all have suspected it been something going on. They have been getting massive sponsorship deals. Managers and players get paid under the table, and we will see what will end with this Manchester City saga. But we have to move on to the next segment of the show before the time runs out, and I like to share a little snippet from Strefford Paddock. I wish Andy Tate was here today, so it will be more legit for me to show it. But I hope they won't copyright us when I show this. But let's just try and see what happens. Here it is, Strefford Paddock. Can you guys see it?
It's a constant falling Old Trafford as well. It seems like the stadium is crumbling. And I was right next to the City fans, and they were doing the usual chants about the stadium's falling down, Old Trafford's falling down, and all the rest of it. And whilst you don't listen to City fans because they spout drivel constantly, it is a little bit embarrassing. And we've been speaking about this for a while now, about the state of Old Trafford, about the fact you've got leaks in the roof, about the fact now you've got concrete falling down, which I'm no health and safety expert, but seems a little bit dangerous. Also, the fact that the stadium is barely fit for purpose. If you want to sit down half the time, your legs are squashed. It needs more than just a lick of paint. Now, we've had this investment of around 245 million quid, I think, from Sir Jim Ratcliffe. The brunt of that is going to go to the training ground. And I get that. You need a training ground that is modern, and the Carrington training facility is no longer modern. I think it's barely been touched in about 20 years. But something needs to be done about Old Trafford. I'm not just saying that because my kids got a little bit wet in the Manchester Women's Derby. I've been saying this for years, as I'm sure many of you have as well. It's actually embarrassing. You go to stadiums all around the country or all around Europe or all around the world, and you look at them, and invariably they're all better than Old Trafford in terms of the facilities, in terms of the setup, in terms of just the roof. You go there, you think, what's going on? How come when I go back to Manchester United, to Old Trafford, which is one of the most iconic stadiums in the world, it feels like it's falling apart? Something needs to be done. Now, whether that's Sir Jim's money or whether that's the money we've already got, I don't know.
Yeah, that's it. So basically, the state of Old Trafford is not very good at the moment. I just want to say thank you to Strefford Paddock for this movie. So, guys, how do we go forward? What do we do with Old Trafford? Do we rebuild it? Do we build a new stadium? Should we just try to flick on it and fix it?
I'll tell you what, Jarvis. I'll tell you what. You go ahead and answer your own question first. What do you think we should do? Let's flip it on Jarvis.
Yeah, but I'm interested in hearing your points because I've been at the Old Trafford a couple of times in my life, and when I was there, I thought it was fantastic. I only seen it on television, so for me, I didn't notice all these little things, but now I see it, and now I'm aware of it. But have you seen the stadium decline in the last 20 years? Is it noticeable when you come to Old Trafford?
Yeah, look, it is noticeable, and it is kind of sad. But here's the thing: it keeps getting the certificate. As long as you get that tick, the health and safety certificate, it doesn't matter what me, you, or anybody else thinks. If you're running the club, but here's the thing: people are so attached to Manchester United and Old Trafford, it's unthinkable what can happen to the stadium. Now, it's a very, very simple transition. You've got two kind of ways. You either spend £1 billion refurbishing it, because it will cost you a shitload to refurbish. Don't be any under impression that you can refurbish that stadium for 200 million, 300 million, or 400 million. So when you get to refurb in a stadium of 400 million, as opposed to a brand new stadium at $1 billion, do the math. You're not going to refurb a stadium at 400 million. You're not going to do it. But here's the clever part. Sir Jim and Ineos will have a division within their business that is purely and simply for site finding, architecture and building. Okay, that's what they do. That's their own little department within Ineos. They've all got them. Tesco's have the same, Aldi have the same, they've all got them. For Sir Jim and his team to knock up a stadium, not with Manchester United's money, because they'll have a finance path already for all of the businesses that the buildings and infrastructure they've got, is nothing. You can do it like that. You can sign it off tomorrow, no problem whatsoever. His problem will be, you can't knock Old Trafford down. You can't do this. You can't do that. You've got to keep the heritage. Where do you go? Now, everybody loves modernism in football. Got to play football the modern way. Got to do this the modern way. Got to do that in the modern way. Well, you need a modern stadium then. And you've got to take a deep breath. And our stadium is as iconic as Highbury used to be. And Highbury had the marble floors. That's what they were famous for. But Arsenal realised they couldn't develop it. It's almost impossible for us to develop over the railway line. That'll cost an inordinate amount of money to do that. And so they took the heartfelt decision of building the Emirates very, very close to Highbury. And they've turned Highbury into something that's, still holds, a view of where the pitch used to be, and still this and still that. So you have only got one option with Old Trafford, and that is to rebuild it, because it would take. When
you say rebuild, you mean to break it to
the Old Trafford's got to go
and build it up again from the ground.
It has to go. We own enough land around Old Trafford to maybe, you might be able to correct me on this, Tom, but maybe play at Old Trafford and build a new stadium close by. We do enough of that. But the finance, the money side, I wouldn't even worry about it, because Ineos, that's what they do. That's nothing to them. They are absolutely zero. I don't know how many sites they've got around the country, but it's a nothing to them.
I heard they found a smart way to actually build over the railway line for about the 200 to 400 million instead of the billion or so.
Yeah, but again, if you are spending 400 million, just let that sink in just for a minute. 400 million just to add to that particular stand. It's not worth it.
Financially. Ferguson said.
It doesn't stack
over the railway.
It doesn't stack up. It doesn't stack up. It cost us. What did it cost us, Tom? Was it 200 million to fill in the sides? The quadrants.
Oh, Tommy's not here. You had to take a phone. Yeah,
I think it was about 200 million to fill in the quadrants. You're not going to spend 400 million I don't think so. In doing it up, and you know, people say they're not going to be. Yeah, United will never build a new stadium. You're going to have to. What would you do? What would you do if you were faced with your business, right? You've got 5 sites, Jarvis, yeah, and your one site is crumbling, and they give you a 50 million bill to refurb it, or 100 million bill for a brand new site, state of the art, that's going to last you. What are you going to do?
Well, it was up to me. If we have the land and the property, we should just build a new stadium, because in the rebuild process, where can we play? Should we move to London? Because we won't play at Etihad. I'm sure we can't.
Well, look, you could play at the Etihad. Whether City and the fans would want us to play at Etihad, I don't know.
Guys would fill out the stadium, so what's to complain about? They
can't
do it, so let us do it.
but it really is. It is money, and I know you're talking £1 billion and 400 million and stuff like that. We're not talking just 10 quid and 50 quid. But if you are refurbishing a stadium at a cost of 400 million pounds, okay, and I'm a shareholder, I'm going to question why we're spending 400 million on refurbishing a stadium that you may have to refurbish again in another 10 years.
Yeah.
Or are you going to, you know what? It's got to go. It's got to go. And it's £1 billion, and we get a state-of-the-art stadium that's going to 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years. It's hard. I don't want Old Trafford to be knocked down. Okay, we get attached to it. We're a football fan. Can you call a new stadium Old Trafford? No, you can't. But Real Madrid reskinned their, at a cost of a lot of money. They reskinned the Bernabeu at a cost of a lot of money. It's just all about people. They don't want Old Trafford to go down. And I get it. I get it. But you've got to do the numbers on this. The numbers on that does not stack to render Old Trafford. That's just my humble opinion. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying it's my humble opinion.
I think a lot of people in the VAR room agrees with you. I see Neil Driscoll comes in. He said, "This do build a new stadium." Wells Girls said, "We need a new." Ivo Bosic comes in and he makes some sense. He said 400 million to refurbish, just spend the extra and build a new. So I think the consensus in the VAR room is build a new stadium. Actually, I think that will be the most sensible thing to do.
Just quickly before Tom comes in, it should tell you a lot where if Jim has got this 245 million quid investment and the bulk of that is going on Carrington, that should tell you an awful lot about 245 ain't going to touch the sides at Old Trafford.
Yeah, see, Jarle comes in there. He said, I think we will see a new stadium plans as soon as Ratcliffe gets 51% of the club. That's what we all are hoping for, that he will get 51, the majority, and build a new stadium. I think that will move us forward into the future.
He built a new, 100,000 seat stadium? What do you reckon, Tom? What do you reckon the most we could refurb Old Trafford to?
If you take what you've got now and you just build upon it, I think you can get to 95.
Yeah,
I think you can break Wembley, but I think if you build from scratch, you can make it to whatever you want it to, because the land's that big to play on. But my sort of plan, given my sort of background anyway, construction contracts and property development and stuff, I've got a little minority grasp of the sort of scale figures of what it would take really with Manchester United, and just speaking figuratively, it would take $1.5 billion to fully refurbish, build it all up to tiers, and that might not even get you to that 95 capacity that I just said about that. That's just a. If I'm looking at it, and I'm looking at it from an investment perspective, to put my contractors and constructions in place along with my other associates, I would say that you could get Old Trafford, this current Old Trafford, to 95,000, but it's going to cost us a lot of money, and that return on investment we might not see for 20, maybe 2 decades. But the problem in saying that with United is if you just refurbish it and you just make it look, you basically paper over the cracks of it for now, those cracks are going to pick away bit by bit, and suddenly you're going to have problems over time. Whereas if you bill it, so that you take a big hit financially, that might cost, the sort of figures that I was more or less looking at was around about 2 billion, really, to build it from scratch. But the best solution that I ever come up with Old Trafford would be that you keep Old Trafford where it is, you play with Old Trafford for however many years, you keep the same structure for now, and you try and build the stadium next to it or in front facing of it. Build that. Yeah, build a new.
We spoke about that,
Tom.
Yeah. When you were on the phone, we spoke about that, Tom. That was my suggestion.
Yeah, build the whole build the whole plan upwards, and build it separate to the current structure, and you can use it as whatever. Call it the Ineos Stadium, the whatever state. You're gonna have to move on from Old Trafford, but you keep Old Trafford as it is. But then you slowly deconstruct it down so it's 25,000 and use it as a women and youth facility stadium. Because that is what you can use as a motivator to those young players and those aspirations to say, do you know who played on this same pitch? You had George Best who played on this field. You had Sir Alex Ferguson who stood on that touchline. You had all the history would still stay in that one stadium. It would just be a youth stadium. And yeah, it's not the glitz and glamour of what Old Trafford is, but that's your history still there, Old Trafford. So it still has a purpose, and it can still be used for purpose. But you then have still the new stadium. Yeah, go on.
A quick question: what has the other clubs done with their old stadiums? What happened to White Hart Lane, or what's going to happen with Goodison Park now? And
with White Hart Lane was a little bit different because. With what Stu was saying before around about the health and safety security checks of it all, Daniel Levy and Joe Lewis got a red warning listing on White Hart Lane to say that one of the tier stands, I think it was in the north stand of White Hart Lane, was on the brink of collapse because of the concrete construction works that were decayed for over 15 years, even before Joe Lewis had full ownership of Spurs. When he bought the club, they never made the investments to the stadium because it always passed the checks. But they always had the plan to build Spurs a new stadium because it was going to increase the revenue and they had to compete with the other clubs. Otherwise, they would be left behind. So with White Hart Lane, it was a little bit different based upon that for the first 6 months while they were building the new stadium, they was able to do the south stand of the new stadium right now. And they was able to complete the cylinders on either or of the side of the west and east. The north stand, which was the bigger project, which was going to take a full year to do, they had to then dismantle the south stand of the old stadium to then be able to construct the new one. So it was basically build as far as you can get up to, and then afterwards you have to deconstruct the old one before you can start and finish the job. And then from there, you can just completely deconstruct the old White Hart Lane. But what Spurs did was they took the gemstones and the ground software that they had within the old White Hart Lane, and they made it and used it as the flooring and concrete flooring for the whole stadium. So you still had that sense of the old White Hart Lane because the bricks and mortar of old White Hart Lane is what you're standing on. So they've still been able to keep some part of the legacy of the club. This is what I'm talking about with instrumental ideas and plans. But as we were saying before, 245 million to do Carrington, you might not even have to spend all of it on Carrington because Leicester City built the state-of-the-art 5-star training facility for £80 million. And that's Leicester City who are now in the Championship, mind you. Manchester United, fit for purpose. I would say if you budget around 120 million, you can do Carrington to make it on par with what Spurs have right now, easily. And Spurs have one of the best training facilities in European football, easily. And then the other budget of 100 million, that's what you can use to, for example, with the video that you showed with the lads from Strefford Paddock, big up to them, is the decay of the stadium. You can use the rest of the investment then to go towards fixing it for now as a temporary fix to then make a project and a plan. It gives you the time to still then plan. But while Ratcliffe ratifies and gains more control and more percentage of the club, it gives him the opportunity and the chance. He's got his feet under the carpet. He's got his foot in the door. Right, let's plan for this stadium now. We're Ineos. We've got the biggest, with big innovators, construction projects, demolition projects, contractual negotiations. Ineos, if they wanted to build a new stadium for Manchester United tomorrow, they could do it easily.
Yeah, easy.
And they've got the big hitters within the European markets who would either fund them for it if they didn't want to flip the bill themselves, or they can just put the right people in place so that they can build it easily. But if I'm going off of a more lower scale from what I do in comparison to Ineos, the way that I would structure it is I'd build from scratch, but I'd just keep Old Trafford as a historical landmark, because you can still attract tourists to the Old Trafford pitch, because it will still be the same. It would just be dismantled to fit for purpose. But then you still gain something from it, because the women's and youth team have their own stadium. And the one thing that those two in hand don't ever have is our youth teams play at Carrington Training Ground. That is disrespectful to young players of this football club. The women's team, it's so gender new. It's not even gender centric. They play outside of Manchester in Lee Sports Village, closer to Liverpool than it is Manchester. That is an absolute disgrace. So if you take what I said before about Old Trafford and you build it down and use it as for the youth team and the women's team, so they have their own stadium, well, you get two stadiums for the price of one then, because you're saving yourself having to build a stadium for the women's and youth team. And it's only just now that they spent £25 million on building the women's team their own facility next to Carrington, which I still think is a disgrace that it took that long for them to do. But at the end of the day, guys, the one thing that this all comes down to is influence. Ratcliffe doesn't have that right now, but he can use this time to make sure that he has the money in place for when he does get control and he does have the influence. Then he can accelerate forward and build a new stadium or do whatever. But the one thing that I want him to do, in particular, communicate with fans before you make any decision. That's the one thing. If you still don't go with what the fans want, I can accept that you still at least communicated with them. But you ultimately make the final decision because you're footing the bill. We'll all accept that. But if we have a say in the matter and what we want as fans, then at least you've given us the opportunity and the right for our opinion. Whereas if it was the Glazer family, guys, they wouldn't give you an opinion at all. I'll guarantee you that already. And anybody knows about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers story, I'll say it very briefly. Tampa Bay Buccaneers needed a new stadium. The Glazer family said, we'll build you a new stadium. They spent the money to build it up. The Glazer family, as soon as the banks and the hedge fund managers come to the family and said, we need our investment back because we've just built you a new stadium, the family turned the book and turned the knife and the bill onto the fans of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and said, whoa. We don't have to pay you. We don't have to pay for this stadium. You're the fans. You wanted it, guys. You can pay for it now. And because it was already built, you can't exactly just deconstruct it. So the family got round from constructing and having to pay for that stadium. And even still to this day, the Tampa Bay Buccaneer fans have still paying off that stadium. I think they've still got another $300 million to go to still pay that stadium off from their ticket annual revenue as a supporters trust group. So if they can do it to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, believe you me, they'll find a way to do it to Manchester United.
100%.
They do. Before we move on, I just want to say, doing a show with you two guys, you are both living encyclopedias. You have so much knowledge. It makes it so much easier for me. So, guys and girls in the chat, hit that like. We have 60 likes so far, and I think we should try to go for 70 before we end the show. So last 5 to 10 minutes, guys. We soon have to wrap it up because we are closing up to the 2-hour mark. I just want to move on and talk a little bit about latest football. I saw Yale Malmin came in with a with a chat here, and he said, "Wait, Varane heading to Bayern. Any truth to this?" Not as far as I know. I haven't seen anything. I tried to search it up on Twitter. I can't find. Well, maybe there's something here with the Center Devils. They say, oh, maybe I could just share the screen, and you all guys can see it. We can break the news together. There it is. And whoops. So basically, Center Devils comes out and say Rafael Varane has been discussed at FC Bayern as potential January target. The internal opinion is that the Frenchman is interesting player. However, a move would be unrealistic, not a hot topic at the moment because of Varane's high wages. So I don't think it will happen.
Jarvis, that's a non-starter. Where does he fit in it at Bayern?
Yeah,
they don't need it. They don't need it. I'd laugh about this, and this upsets me also in our in the journalistic world that you can be today, because anyone can be a journalist now on Twitter, and the integrity of some of these people, it's they just don't care. They just do that's a click and like. I see Varane moving on in the summer. Absolutely no two ways about it. Or Saudi Arabia, but just the way Bayern, I would say would take Varane. No chance. I just don't see that. So
no. But there is a chance that Varane could move to Saudi in January.
Saudi. I think he could go to Saudi. Yeah, it's either Saudi or he stays to the end of the year for me.
Yeah. Would you sell Varane at this moment, or would you wait until the end of the season?
I'd personally wait till the end of the season, mate.
There's no money, is there, Tom? There's no money in it, is there?
I don't think there is much money in it, and I think Saudi Arabia would be inclined to buy more players in the summer market from us than in January, because with Varane, at least you pay down his wages more for the rest of the season. So if push comes to shove and you send him to Saudi, you don't have to pay him off as much. But also, the Saudi Arabian clubs probably will be more inclined to give you more money for him, based upon you can negotiate with them for longer. January, in many cases, I always say to people, January is not a buyer's market.
No,
you can sell players, you can send them out on loan a lot easier in January than you can in the summer. But in the summer market, that's where you buy your golden players that are going to be a success for you, or you're supposed to. But with Varane to Bayern Munich anyway, as you guys were just saying, I don't see where he fits in exactly the same as you. I agree with you, but I don't see where he fits in. And second of all, with the wages that he's on at United, which is in excess of £280,000 per week, Bayern Munich have a cap on every single one of their players by £250,000 a week. So if he wants to go to Bayern Munich, he has to take a pay cut anyway. Which he's what? I can't remember what age. I think is he 30 now? He's pushing the door of 30 anyway.
He is, yeah, he is. He's older.
Like at 30 years old, you're not going to take wage cuts. I'm sorry, you're not. You're on a big contract at United, long term. Why would you want to leave on the wages that you're on right now? Unless, like we're saying, guys, a Saudi Arabian club comes in and they'll pay you an extra 50. Like, so then you might be, instead of being on 280, you might be on 330, you might be on 350. And suddenly that makes a hell of a lot of difference annually week, because 50 over 54 weeks in a year, that's an extra 5 million for you per year annually. So you could be on a 25-week contract, £25 million yearly contract. But it's ridiculous with the money.
I saw someone on Twitter, just to put it in context, I saw someone on Twitter a couple of days ago. You got to laugh at this.
Man.
Oh, forget that. I mean, Jesus Christ. I mean, I don't want to talk about that, Jarvis. I don't even want to talk about it. No, that we'd offered to pay $500,000 a week to come back to cover for. I mean, we want to cut his salary in the summer, but don't worry about that, Dave. We've changed our mind. Can we offer you $500,000? Would you mind? Just come on. I mean, honestly, it just does my end. As for Griezmann, no, I just don't want to talk about that.
No. I just want to bring up one last tweet here I saw today that's quite interesting, because we have Facundo Pellistri. He's been playing quite good. He have played both games for Uruguay against Brazil and Argentina. Let's see if I can find it here. Oh, I have so many. Where is it? It's there. There it is. Okay. So my question is, what's going to happen with Pellistri? He doesn't seem like Ten Hag likes him or plays him. So what do you guys think?
I think it's more probably due to his age and the inexperience of him as a player, why he doesn't want to put him in there in the firing line. Because the one thing that Ten Hag said, even in the first press conference, I will only play players, even if they're young, when they're ready to play for Manchester United. So I won't just play them for the sake of it. That's the one thing that Erik Ten Hag always kept. Even with
but how old is Pellistri? He's in his 20s. He's like 22 or something.
I think he's 22. Yeah, I mean,
he's hardly any young player anymore.
Ahmad's, what is he, 21? I think Ahmad as well is in the sort of same age bracket as well, not too far behind. But the problem with Pellistri in this case is we've sent him out on loans, but they've come to nothing because the clubs we've sent him to, he's not going to gain any experience from. We sent him to Alvarez twice on loan, gained nothing, no experience whatsoever. But you send Ahmad on 1 year loan, it wasn't even 1 year, it was 8 months, to Sunderland. He's learnt so much and he's developed so much as a player with 8 months than Pellistri has done in 2 season loans with Alvarez in Spain. But the problem with us is you can get best talents in world football like Pellistri. That's fine, no problems at all. But we don't necessarily have the facilities to put them in the best environment so they can develop. If Ratcliffe comes in, Pellistri go to Nice. Honestly, go to Nice, where Nice are fighting at the top of French league football. Go and let him compete week in, week out. The French league, physical, technical. You can use your technical ability to develop in that league. A lot of good technical players have come from France. So at the end of the day, use your resources that you have right now. If you want to send him to Nice, send him to Nice. Listen, send him to a club where they are developing or they're having a decent spell in the season. That's what I want from him. That's where I would send him personally. Even in the same case with Ahmad. Ahmad's not ready to play for the first team. I don't think Pellistri is necessarily. I want him to have at least 1 full season, play 38 games in the season, on loan, consistently, playing at a high level. My personal preference for me, if I could pick for any of our players to go, I want them to stay in the Premier League and go out on loan. I'd love if a club like a Wolves, Crystal Palace, one of those sort of clubs who takes a gamble on young players. Crystal Palace is very similar because they did it for many players. Michael Elise, Ebereeze, Conor Gallagher even. Take a gamble on someone like a Pellistri and let them have the game time. Because we've seen the quality is there, but it's an experience to complete it week in, week out. That's the problem. We know the talent's there, but even with Ten Hag, personally anyway, I think he likes players like Pellistri. I really do. But I just think he looks at them and thinks, I will send him out there on a graveyard shift in this United team where our attack is shocking at this moment in time. We don't score enough goals. We create chances numerous times, but we're just not consistent in front of goal. So you'll play Pellistri, and as soon as he doesn't get an assist or a goal, he'll be criticised. And for a young player, they don't know how to deal with that. An experienced player will know how to deal with that because they've had that previously in their career. So it's almost like manage his career for him, and then move on to the next sort of sphere for him. But for me, if I'm being honest, in January, either him or Ahmad's got to go on loan. Definitely. Ahmad, I don't care. Send him back to Sunderland. Do whatever you've got to do. Pellistri, God forbid, send him to wherever. I want him to get game time from now till the end of the season, either at United or elsewhere.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. I actually 100% agree. I think Tom's right. What I find more interesting, more than anything, is is the, if you read the actual tweet, it says Palestri completes more dribbles. And I put, on Saturday afternoon, I put my boots and my socks on and my shin pads. That's all that means, you see. That's the problem. We get so wrapped up in, Palestri, you should have seen him completing more dribbles than anyone else. Wow. But what happened in the game? What were these dribbles? How do you measure a dribble? Did he drift past 5 players, put one in for Cavani, Cavani scores, gets the winning goal? Then you're gonna start looking.
I saw the highlights. He was actually quite good, but the highlights are highlights. You gotta take it with a pinch of salt. But, he has excellent technique, low center of gravity. He knows how to weigh the ball when he makes a pass. So. Yeah,
100%. I do agree with him. I think he's a great player, and I agree with Tom as well as you, Jarvis. But what's his off the ball work like? What's his awareness like? His visual awareness? What's his spatial awareness when it comes to defensive duties? There's so much more. I'm getting at this particular text message because he completes the dribbles. Brilliant. But what else happened in the game? And that's what Tom's getting at, and that's what you get at, Jarvis, when you speak about it. I think Palestri would be a brilliant 10 as it happens. I think he'd be superb as a 10 because his dribbling ability, his low centre of gravity, etc., etc. I agree with that. His passing ability, I think he could score goals, but he's got red shirts. Every footballer who comes to Manchester United has to do more when they pull on that red shirt for Manchester United. The standards in any club are here. It's got to be up here in Manchester United. That's the minimum standard you set. And that doesn't happen anymore. What's his personality like on the pitch? Is he quiet? Is he shy? Is he strong? Is he aggressive? All of these add on to that little sorry, Joe, it's that little tiny comment about all Palestri's completing the most dribbles. I mean, to be brutally honest, I don't care if he completed one dribble and he set up the winning goal. Brilliant, I get that. So that's kind of how it is with footballers. I mean, you've done it yourself, Jarvis. You've played at a really good level in Norway, and you understand the need to be able to dribble, but to be able to know where you are at any given time. On that pitch, where am I? Spatial awareness, position. Oh, crikey, I've just let me defender run off me, or I've let the attacker run off me. Shouldn't do that. What's your personality like? Were you strong? Were you shouting? Were you a leader, or were you quiet? Did you have to wait for somebody to tell you what to do? All this is what a football is all about. And people forget that all the time. You guys don't, because you understand the game.
But a lot of those things you do develop with experience and with game time. Absolutely. And that's the problem with Palestri. He doesn't have any game time. He sits on the bench. He comes on for 10, 15 minutes every fifth game or something like that. So how can he develop? And I saw here Peter Day came in with a comment, and he mentioned Ahmad Palestri and Hannibal. And the same goes for all of them. They don't have enough game time to develop as footballers.
So I've been talking about this a lot actually recently, because somebody asked me a question a month or two ago about, why didn't Garner make it at Manchester United? Why is he playing so well at Everton at the minute? It's very, very straightforward. Coming through Manchester United is the most difficult prospect as an academy for any football club in the world. It doesn't offer you the chance to develop as a footballer that playing for City, like Phil Foden, for example, or Harvey Elliott over at Liverpool, or Gabby over at Barcelona, or Vinicius over at Real Madrid. When you look at the quality of Martin Odegaard, your countryman, he couldn't make it. He came to Madrid in a fanfare, the most expensive teenager in world football, and he couldn't make it. They didn't allow him that time to develop. Manchester United, it's almost impossible, and we've seen some wonderful, talented players come through the academy at Manchester United, touch the first team, and not make it, because what tends to happen is Mengi, for example, over at Luton Town, proven to be a wonderful centre half for Luton, strong, solid. We couldn't give him that chance because we decided to get Varane. The fans are going, "Oh, we got Champions League Varane." Okay, all right, fair enough. What about Mengi? Mengi is they've got to have these chances. Look, I'm not saying
Same with Garner when we brought in Casemiro, for example.
Yeah, I'm not saying you've got to go out and buy players all the time, because sometimes you've got to take the punt on players. But I think you're both right with Pellistri. I don't think he's got the mentality, actually, the mental strength yet to be a Manchester United first team player. Not doubting his ability at all. I think he's got bags of ability, but he doesn't have that. I worry about Kobe Mainoo. You know, we know the talent this player's got, but has he got that mental strength? Because, you know, Wayne Rooney had that strength. He came in with his shoulders and his chest out, banged into the Manchester United dressing room, took on Roy Keane, you know, took on, Rio Ferdinand, took on players that were in and around him. That's unique. To be a top player. Look at Jude Bellingham. Walked into the Real Madrid. All right, Luca. Yeah. Whatever, mate. I'm here to play football. I'm not here to be your mate. I'm not here to clean your boots. I'm here to play football. And these players have got to start doing this. This again is modern football. And when the likes of Beckham, Neville were coming through, they're probably earning 200, 300, 400 quid a week. These idiots are on 15, 20 grand a week.
Yeah.
You have to bear that in mind as well, guys.
We got to do that. I'm just going to bring up the VAR before we close up. They say Jarl Malmin comes in and said the Pellistri is our best right winger. It's sad to see that he does not get game time. Anthony have shown nothing all this season. Yeah, it's a competition and it's up to God.
I agree with that. But Jarvis, he's got to show balls then. Pellestri's got to show balls.
Yeah.
Don't go and knock on Eric Bernard's door.
He's too nice. He's too nice. That's the problem.
Yeah, kick it in.
Ivo Bosic comes in. He said the Pellistri playing well for Uruguay equals benching at Man United. Peter Day said the Pellistri has more license to be more expressive for Uruguay. That's probably right. Uruguay's coach, it's Bielsa, I think.
It's Bielsa,
It is.
The most forward-thinking coach in international football. All the others are boring, aren't they?
So I think that's the end of the show. Do you guys have any final words, any comments you want to say before we leave?
I just want to thank the VAR-ROOM again. You've been absolutely brilliant. Thanks for listening to us. I hope we haven't sent you to sleep. And we're all regulars on a Monday. If you've got any questions you want to ask us personally, fire away. I'm sure Tom is the same, and Jarvis is the same. If there's anything you want to know, just fire away, because we love answering questions and it's great. So, but no, I love coming on the show, Jarvis. I love a Monday. I love working with Tom, yourself, and Andy and Uncle Jimmy. Really enjoy it. It's one of my favourite shows to do. So thank you.
Yeah. I got a message from Uncle Jimmy. If you missed him, he got stuck in traffic, so he couldn't sadly join us. So, but maybe he will be on the next one.
Superb.
Yeah. So then it's time to wrap it up. I would say thank you to the panel. Thank you to Stu. Thank you to Tom. Thanks to the VAR panel. And before you go, if you haven't, hit the like and subscribe to the channel. And we will be here next Monday with the Jarvis Corner around 9 p.m., maybe 10 p.m., depends what suits our schedule. So, guys, see you on the next one. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye.
That's all, folks.
Thank you so much for stopping by and watching Mufc Realist TV. Don't forget to like and subscribe and follow us on the socials.
Enjoy that, guys, as usual.